So I'm doing what I do most every day, which is ride the Route 6 bus north from the corner of Euclid and Speedway to Stone and Wetmore. And all I really want to do at the end of a long day is read my newspaper in peace. But the lady who sits down right next to me, she's got other plans. She's rocking back and forth, and she's talking to herself. I can't do this, I just can't do this. Why don't they know that I can't do this? I can't do this. And it's something that people who are trying to get sober frequently do on the bus. And it makes me want to pull out my hair and shake her and say, well, of course you can't do it. You need to change the tape in your head and tell yourself that you can do it. But I don't say anything because there's protocol on public transportation, and the #1 rule is that you don't talk to people who are talking to themselves. So instead I just shake out my newspaper hard and hope that she'll hear the message that she should simmer down. But she doesn't, and now she's not only rocking and talking to herself, but she's scratching her arms like she wants to pull off her own skin. And because worry is my particular Olympic sport, I think that she's got something contagious, and I start to worry about it, like maybe she has lice, or mange, or chicken pox, or leprosy, or Claire, the brain-eating worm. It could happen. And so I'm really kind of getting anxious myself, and then the bus stops, and I get distracted from my worry because I notice that everyone within about 5 feet of us has moved away, and they found a different seat because they're putting space between themselves and trouble on the bus. And it's a natural instinct and one I would do myself, except that I'm worried about embarrassing this woman, because if I stand up and walk away, it's as good as me just yelling, hey lady, you're crazy. And I've done that before. I've walked away, and it didn't turn out that well. I had just turned 20, and I was taking a semester off from college, and I moved back home. And my house, I grew up in a house that was really chaotic and violent, and my parents had a really volatile marriage. It was fueled mostly by alcohol and stubbornness and a lot of pain and baggage that they brought with them from growing up really poor in the Great Depression. And they were good people by themselves. They had good hearts, but they were really bad together. And when I moved home, I noticed after a few weeks, I realized they just weren't fighting like they used to. And it was like they had gone off to Camp David and made some sort of peace accord and not told me about it. But it was nice, and it made me realize, you know, this particular night, Easter Sunday, when I went off to Mass, I didn't have anything to worry about when I left them alone in the living room watching TV, because they'd been getting along just fine. So I went to Mass, and then I hung out with my friends for a long time, and I got home around 10 o'clock, and when I opened the door, I could tell that the earth had shifted, and it's an instinct you have when you've grown up in a violent home. You can tell that something bad has happened before you've seen what bad has happened. And so I looked in the living room, and nobody was there, but there was a half-empty, half-gallon jug of wine sitting next to my mother's chair. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up at attention, because this meant that she was drinking again, and she had been sober for more than 6 months. And if she was drinking, that meant that they had to be fighting, because she wouldn't have been drinking if they weren't fighting. And it also meant most likely that my father was at a bar, because when they started to fight, he would leave and drink more. And so I walked down the hallway to their bedroom, and sure enough, she was alone in the bed, and she was very, very distraught, and she was drinking, and she told me all the bad things that had happened, and they were terrible, and she told me the horrible, awful things that my father had said, things that no person should say to another person no matter what, and things that I believe he probably regretted for the rest of his life. She was looking to me for comfort, and normally I would do that, but I think that I just snapped like it was the end of my rope, like I'd been doing this all my life. And so I was empty of comfort, and I was full up of indignation, which is a trait of 20-year-olds in general, but I was kind of worse. And so I told her, you know, this has got to stop. You need to divorce him. He's not good for you. It's not worth it. You have to go. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you leaving? And she shook her head at me. And at the time, being 20, I thought that she was just saying, oh, no, I can't leave. But now that I'm older, I realize it was just an older person looking at a 20-year-old saying, oh, darling, you know, you think life is so black and white, come talk to me in a few decades and you'll understand more about the complications. So I went to her and I took her glass of wine away and I laid her down and I said, you need to go to bed, and I tucked her in and I was saying everything will be better in the morning, everything will be better in the morning, and she grabbed my arm and she looked at me crying and she said, you are all I have left. I don't have anybody else but you. And the minute she said that, I felt chains just wrap around me and like I couldn't breathe, and it was so suffocating. And so I said, no, it's okay, and I kept saying comforting words, but while I was saying those words, I peeled her fingers off my arm one by one, and then I tucked her hand in the covers and I tucked her in like I didn't want her to touch me anymore. And so even though my mouth was saying, it's going to be better in the morning, I even told her that we'd go shopping, my actions, which screamed so much louder, were saying, no, I'm not available for that job, I can't do this, I can't save you, I'm barely going to get out myself. And then I kissed her goodnight and I went to my room. I put space between myself and trouble. And they tell me, the priests and the psychiatrists and the friends and the family, they tell me that it's not my fault and that parents are supposed to take care of children, not the other way around, and that I shouldn't feel guilty, but sometimes on the bus I do, when I'm next to this person who's reminding me of my family. So many people in my family tree just tragically attacked by this alcoholism and addiction, and how it's been a tornado in my life, and no matter how hard I try, I cannot save everybody. And so I'm thinking, I can't do this today, I'm moving. As soon as the bus stops, I'm finding a different seat. I don't worry about her, I'm not going to be worried about her being embarrassed. But then the hand of grace just touches me and I get a different idea. There's a story in the Bible about Jesus raising a man from the dead. And he goes to the tomb and he says, Lazarus, come out. And Lazarus, who's all shackled head to toe in burial cloths, he's just in a mummy's prison, he comes out. And it's really instructive because Jesus doesn't untie him. And he doesn't expect Lazarus to free himself. Instead, he looks at the crowd and he says, you, go to the man, untie him and set him free. And so I put my arm around this woman and I say, look, I know you think you can't do this, but the mere fact that you are on this bus instead of out there drinking and drugging shows me you can do it. Indeed, you are doing it. You just need to change the tape in your head. And then there's this awkward silence. And I look around and everybody's big Google eyes on the bus looking at me, because now I have broken rule number 2, which is you don't touch the people who are talking to you. And so I think maybe something bad's going to happen, but she leans in and she says, that's an idea. And then she starts to weep, which was really sad. And she says, but lady, it just sounds really, really hard. And I said, it is hard. And I can't tell you that it's going to be easy. In fact, it'll probably get worse before it gets better, but there are people doing this all the time, every day, minute by minute, step by step, day by day, hour by hour. People are getting sober in this town and everywhere else, so I know that you can do it, you can do it. And then, just as it gets to be pretty uncomfortable because I'm not sure if I should still keep my arm around her, I just don't know what to do, the bus driver announces my stop, and so I take my arm off of her and I give her my newspaper. And I said, here, you need to read this newspaper, just read this, distract yourself, keep your mind on something else, but I gotta go, this is my stop, I gotta go, have a good day. And I stand up, and as I turn with my backpack, she reaches out and she touches me, and I feel that same fear. I feel these chains come around, and I turned around and she must see like panic in my face, because she kind of leans back and lets go, and she says, oh, no, I just wanted to say thank you for helping me. We are all, I believe, incarcerated in some form or fashion by our past or our present, our choices, our excuses, memories, and fears that just won't let us go. And I think we're all really, really desperate to get free. Witness the plethora of self-help books surrounding us everywhere you go. But I've been thinking lately that maybe we're going about it the wrong way. Perhaps we're not born with the key to our own prison, and perhaps we can't untie ourselves. But maybe, just maybe, we can help untie each other. Thank you.